Chapter 1, Introduction to Parasitology, Parasitology and Human Welfare. Now, when it comes right down to it, parasites have been with us before we were us. Parasites predate humans, predate hominids. Now, we go and we can look at some of the fossil records, and we can see little pockmarks within the bones, or the mineralized whatever's left that we now call bones, the fossils, which says, okay, there was some form of parasitic organism that was infecting this T-Rex, this raptor, this whatever herbivore. We can also go and look at refuse pits of Neanderthals. We can look at the feces there, and we can find the fossilized remains of parasitic eggs. As you see here to the left here, we go and we look at some of the Bronze Age cities that we're now finding. We go and we look in their latrines. We've done it in many. In Rome right now, you can go and look at some of the Roman bathhouses. Go and look in the Roman latrines that were, filled up and then covered over with soil, and they moved on to the next pit. We can dig through this fossilized poo, and we can find parasitic eggs. Turns out we've been riddled with parasites all through our evolution, all through the development of our societies. And as we're going to see in later chapter, next chapter, when we talk ecology and evolution, we're going to be discussing how the evolution, our evolution, as well as all animal evolution, has also been driven by the evolution, the coevolution of parasites, pushing and directing how the host will evolve. You look here to the left here. You look at the different apes. You look at the Asian versus the African apes. You notice that's all Plasmodium species. The genus Plasmodium and the different species, Vivax, Malariae. These are ones we think of as humans. But turns out the different apes, the monkeys, the great apes, also co-evolved along with their own Plasmodium species. So the different species you see of Plasmodium are going to correspond to different areas around the world, are endemic to different apes and monkey species around the world. They've been there longer than we have. And it's not like parasites are gone. Even though we are here in the first world country, we still are impacted by parasites. Here in the U.S., you'll see there's outbreaks of what's referred to as pinworm. Pinworm, we're going to talk about in a later one. If you had me for microbiology, you would have heard this one. This is one you're going to see. It's going to hit mostly young children that are in daycares. It's a parasitic worm that gets in the rectum, exits out, lays eggs around there, while the child's asleep, causes lots of itching, and they pass it around. Okay, so there'll be outbreaks in daycares. Roundworms are everywhere here. Okay, we get exposed because of our dogs, because we like to walk around in the grass, barefoot, things like that. And there's also numerous one-celled eukaryotic parasites, Cryptosporidium, Toxoplasma. Cryptosporidium toxoplasma, for most of us who are healthy, it's not going to be that much of an issue unless there's a real big sanitation breakdown, our water system breakdown, and we get sewage into. There's been Cryptosporidium outbreaks, I remember, in Minneapolis, things like that. We're going to see Cryptosporidium is going to be an AIDS-related pathogen. Okay, AIDS patients are going to suffer from this. Toxoplasma, this is going to be for people who have cats. That's why they'd say, if you got cats, pregnant women shouldn't clean after them. Then you go and you look at the fact that, we're starting to see, yes, we have had drugs that have worked very well for decades, some for up to a century, but they're hard to get. They take money, they take time, and it just takes people not taking them as they should over and over and over. I mean, people want to sit there and blame pharmaceutical companies. Okay, blame pharmaceutical companies. But you also got to keep in mind that some of these drugs, for some of these, like Plasmodium, the malarial drug, you have to take that every day for months on end. For some people, depending on what they've been infected with, it's for the rest of their life. If they don't, it comes back. And what comes back, because those drugs keep it suppressed, what comes back are going to be the organisms, the parasites that, were able to kind of handle the drug. They're slightly resistant, and every time they stop and they go a few days, few weeks, until their parasitic infection flares up again and they start taking it, every time they're choosing for more and more resistance, until now we're seeing that there's malarial strains out there around the world that are resistant to almost all the drugs we have, similar to what we see nowadays with bacterial antibiotic resistance. Also have to take into mind that within the past decade or so, we have seen mass human migrations that, we got to see a bit of it after World War II. Middle Europe, Mid-Europe, Eastern Europe was totally destroyed. So was parts of Southeast Asia, and we had people that were dispersed, dispossessed, moved out of the way of war so they didn't get dead. They moved to other areas, other countries, other regions. They never moved back. Other peoples moved in. Well, here we are now with all the wars, the terrorism, the famine that's constantly going on in Africa, and people are just now leaving. South Central America, people are now moving up to the North America, to Mexico, the US, Canada, because, we're stable. I don't want to get into the geopolitics of it, but stability in South America and Central America really don't go well together, okay? You don't say those two in the same. So they're moving up here. And as they're moving here, as they're moving from North Africa into Southern Europe, they're bringing everything with them. All the different bacteria, the viruses, and the parasites. Parasites, bacteria, and viruses that aren't normally seen in Northern Europe. They're not normally seen in the US, Canada. You also got to take into account that we're now at that age where, as long as I got room on my credit card, I swipe my credit card and I can be on a plane and anywhere in the world within 24 hours. Get off, go eat some undercooked, poorly processed pork that's riddled with Taenia saginata. Eat some meat from a shady street vendor. Get bit by a mosquito or two, 20 dozen. Hop on a plane and I'm back here within 72 hours. Boom. 3 days. I'm not even going to show symptoms or signs for a week or more. But hey, I've eaten, I've been bitten, and I've come home. Brought everything with me. You look here on this map here, showing the spread of trypanosoma, Chagas disease I talked about in a previous lecture. Normally see this in the Amazons, South America. Slowly been creeping up Central Latin America, Mexico, and it's now, as you can see in the different species of trypanosoma, are spreading throughout southern U.S. What's interesting for many of those areas, armadillos. Armadillos are spreading. Yeah, I was out driving around a year or so ago and was counting the armadillo roadkill here in central Missouri. That's where I was at. I was out near Springfield. I had never seen them out of Texas when I was driving around many years ago in Texas. They're here now. Supposedly they've been here for a while and they're moving north. As, you know, they spread, things get warmer, global warming, all of that, boom, they go, their parasites go. When it comes to humans and parasites, malnutrition is the big one, okay? This is the big symptom, the big sign you're going to see. Depending upon where you are in the world, what parasites the patient, the host has been infected with, the malnutrition can be a slow creep over months, years, decades, as they lose to more and more, of those, liver flukes, intestinal worms, whatever, just taking over more and more of what nutrients they can get in. There's also, due to the fevers. Turns out fevers burn a lot of calories because you got to crank up the cellular metabolisms to generate more heat. Remember, heat. Second law of thermodynamics. There's got to be some loss to entropy. Entropy in the form of heat. So to crank up so that you're no longer 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius, takes a lot of energy. So you have something like malaria where your internal temperature is going to be topping out 105, 106, 107 for a couple of days, then it crashes back down, and then a few days later it goes back up again and crashes down, up again. You get this cyclic thing. You're going to be losing a lot of calories, a lot of weight that way. So they're taking directly nutrients as the nutrients before you can even absorb them. They're stealing them. Think tapeworms. Or because they're there and your immune response, you're burning through the calories.